pleasure to welcome Darryl Lyons to the stage. He's the Indigenous entrepreneur in residence with the Tropical North Queensland Drought Hub. The Tropical North Queensland Drought Hub, based at James Cook University. Darryl Lyons is a proud You're going to have to teach me again, I'm sorry. Marawali man, forgive me. He has a strong background in designing and optimising technology for use in real-world settings with an excellent understanding of commercial requirements in design and deployment of new and emerging technology. Darryl is an experienced leader, an operational specialist, an Indigenous entrepreneur with more than 20 years of experience in business development, Australian agriculture, startups, IoT and commercial construction. Experience in prototyping and designing IoT devices, Darryl is passionate about digitising agriculture and has a strong focus on innovation and striving to disrupt current systems with new technology. Please, a warm welcome for Darryl.
Thank you. Firstly, I just want to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land we are sitting and thank you for their welcome to speak here today. I guess I'm just here to talk about an event. We ran a pilot last year called the Indigenous Datathon for Northern Australia. This really comes around from, I guess, my 10 years working across Northern Australia and lots of Indigenous communities. And I guess the big area where I see as there's a huge acceleration with technology here and around the world, I feel the digital divide's kind of gathering pace and fast outpacing our Indigenous communities through the north. So I guess the Datathon was created to actually show how in touch some of these new technologies are, and then how communities and young Indigenous people can get involved in that. So I've cheated a little bit and put a video in here so it's less talking. So yeah, I'll just run the video of the event and then I'll go into a little bit more detail. Hi, my name's Darryl Lyons. I work as the Indigenous Entrepreneur in Residence in the JCU Ideas Lab. We're here for the 2021 Indigenous Datathon for Northern Australia. I have a whole group of land and sea rangers and a whole heap of tech experts throwing them into the mix in the Ideas Lab, and we're super excited to see what comes out at the other end.
We are learning more about the local knowledge, we're learning more about the land, we're learning more about the culture, and the rangers and the traditional owners that we are meeting are learning a lot more about what AI can do and how it can benefit them and their communities.
Oh, my favourite thing about the Datathon is just working with a whole range of people, and so they all carry a different knowledge base, and so just meeting new people, working with them, especially all exploring drone technology is extremely useful and a lot of fun.
It's been really cool this weekend to work with some of the traditional owners and kind of understand how their traditional ecological knowledge is part of the process. And what we see generally within Western science is that we've got a fairly standard way of going about things, and it doesn't necessarily take into account the 60-odd thousand years worth of knowledge that has been developed on country. So it's really cool to be able to bring the two knowledge systems together to see if we can increase or get better outcomes with what we're doing here today.
My favorite thing about this event has been meeting everybody, and especially getting such a variety of perspectives, right? Because this is what we don't have. We have a lot of data coming in through these devices that everybody's pointing at nature, but the real supercomputers are the brains of the people that we're meeting, and a lot of them are Indigenous rangers, and those are amazing databases. Those are billion-dollar databases right there. And to be able to access those, because they're very difficult to access, people are not getting that information online, to be able to have a conversation and listen and hear a different perspective is just amazing.
I'm going to take back on what I've learned here and pass my knowledge on to the next generation who are coming up into the world today.
What I really get out of Datathons is really making connections
and educating people, opening up people, perhaps come from a slightly different background or viewpoint at it, and opening up their eyes about what their role is and what special skill they bring, but then what they can learn from the others there, because as a team, we can deliver a lot more.
Wow, what a weekend. What an apt place to have this event, the Ideas Lab. The ideas were flying everywhere. We had how Indigenous rangers at the centre of creating potential solutions to solve all of these problems in Northern Australia. We can't wait for this event to be bigger and better next year. Thanks. Anyone in the room here has actually created a machine learning model or AL model? If you can put your hand up. No one? Okay. So I guess the task we had at the event was to really put our rangers at the centre and actually get their hands on and create their own models. So this is Braden. He's a young ranger, a 19-year-old guy from Kawanyama. He was, you know, the typical shy young guy, has hardly ever been to Cairns before, couldn't get boo out of him. And we actually went through the event to actually get him involved in training a model, and we'll go through that process now. So in that process, we pitched in with the Normandy Rangers, who've got a large area and cattle station and traditional owner group, which is north of Cooktown. They actually fly over and look for, I guess, feral animals. They had 98,000 images off a GoPro off the bottom of Chopper, and that was a data set we actually gave to Braden and the team. So what we're actually looking, there's a large erosion that actually goes out to the Great Barrier Reef. So we kind of had Braden talk to the Normandy guys, kind of work on what some of the problems were. And then we went through the process in using a no-code, low-code AI platform. And actually in 2 hours, we had Braden trained up on training this model. So he would go through the images and start to select what the erosion events were. So basically go out and map those. And once you map those, then we actually turn those into a prediction. And we gave them lots of different ratings. You can actually scan that now and it's still live. So what we've done, it went and mapped the really extreme ones, the light ones, and a whole heap of different ones. So this is all done over the weekend, so it was about 36 hours. And what we actually worked on was Braden was at the centre of this with the machine learning experts. So traditionally, a lot of our traditional owners will get imagery and then they'll send it off to a company in Sydney or Melbourne. They'll probably outsource a lot of the machine learning to overseas, to Indians or Filipinos, and they don't have that contextual awareness that Braden had, and basically had everyone eating out of his hand because he could understand what was going on in that country where no one else would. So yeah, as you can see, the different ratings that went in there. And we also ran an experiment when he spoke with the Normandy Rangers on where there was some cultural heritage sites. So we basically layered a data hierarchy, so none of that traditional or areas where they had didn't want some cultural heritage sites and didn't want that exposed. We built a data hierarchy so no one could see that. But again, it's not about the tech, it's about, I guess, that partnership of having our Indigenous people connected to this new technology and what outcomes we could get for them. And I guess what the Normandy Rangers are looking at is how they can actually get tourism as well as potentially some agricultural cattle property on their traditional owner land. So then we started mapping that out when we had some machine learning to go over and actually spot where the cattle were. And then that was basically used in the model to understand where the pressure points are, the one to protect their cultural heritage sites. And the other large area where Braden had his knowledge is understanding where the cattle were in their water points to look out where the cattle tracks were to kind of stop, where there was some light erosion turning into very large erosion events. So this potentially worked as an additional income stream for the rangers that they could put forward to fence off some of these high-risk areas where the cattle will come and take some of this green pick that could turn into really massive erosion events that could go out to the Great Barrier Reef. So again, like we had this young, shy Braden at the start. At the end of the event, we had a pitch where Braden got up and pitched in front of 70 people, where he'd never done that before. So what we were working on is really finding a connection to country and something that could get them involved and then really understand how tangible the technology is and something that they would want to explore. So I guess this has led us to this year's event, where we actually got a partnership with the Great Barrier Reef Foundation. What we're going to focus again is the land and sea ranges. We've got 40 traditional owner groups across the catchment. We're going to look at some problems with that. And we've also got a partnership with JCU, where we actually have 300 of their engineering IT students who come in and do a design sprint and actually look at trying to involve our traditional owners and our rangers to actually put our rangers at the centre of creating these potential solutions and offer them an avenue to get involved with this. And lastly, the event is on the 21st to 23rd of October. If there's my contact details, I'm just looking for anyone who wants to be involved or partner with this. Following the event, what we're actually going to do is do a bit of a roadshow through a lot of the Cape York communities and potentially down south to further that and get these tools in touch with younger people to show how accessible it is and offer them pathways. That's it from me. Thanks.
What an inspiring story. Thank you, Darryl. So we actually have some time for questions, probably just about a minute or two between this speaker and the next. So if anyone in the audience have questions, please make your way to the mic, and if you could just state your name and who your question is for. Well, I might start with one for you, Darryl, if you don't mind, just to warm everyone up. I'm curious about how you dealt with Indigenous IP and involving Google, and whether there was sort of any challenges there around trust and IP in working with a really large data company.
Yeah, I guess the concept we're coming with the Datathon, I feel we get caught up with trying to solve the problem really at the top. And a lot of our communities and people are missing out on the low-hanging fruit to actually get them involved. So I guess in the data set, which we help with Braden and the Normandy ranges, is just exclude anything that has cultural significance or what they don't want to share. So then the remaining maps could be fed into the data models. So we kind of set up and demonstrated how easy it is to set up that data hierarchy, with the view then that perhaps some other ranger groups could use that model on their data. So again, I think it's kind of trying to get some of the low-hanging fruit so they can actually utilise that tech. So it's not infringing on anyone.